Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, your host of That Girl the Podcast. I'm an author, performer, 2-time Emmy Award winner, human relationship specialist, and founder of the wellness website loveyouevenmore.com. Each week I bring on inspiring people and experts in their field to have powerful, motivational, and enlightened conversations about relationships, self-development, and how you can live your most authentic life. Follow us for daily updates on myself and the podcast at That Girl the Podcast and at Jackie Brubaker on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and our Patreon page. While you're at it, make sure to check out my new wellness website, loveyouevenmore.com. If you're wanting to dig into developing more self-worth, be healthier about relationships, and learn how to date smarter, go to loveyouevenmore.com and follow us on Instagram at loveyouevenmore. Welcome, Chantal Landreville, back to That Girl the Podcast. We are going to talk about rewiring our brain to choose better partners, and also how our brain got to be wired that way to begin with our past, our parents, other relationships, and how to get out of that. So you've already been on the podcast, but for those of you who have not heard you before, give a little bit of a background so they can know who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be back. It's always a nice conversation to have.
Yes.
So my name is Chantal. I am from Canada. I'm originally from Montreal, but based in Toronto. So if you pick up a little bit of an accent, it's because I am French Canadian. I am a love and relationship coach, and I have founded a program that's called Raise Your Love Signal. That is basically the MBA of love. It's helping you not only attract the right partner and then creating a vision of our relationship, of your relationship, because we focus a lot on what we want in a partner, but we don't tend to think how we want to grow and evolve in a relationship. And then I talk a lot. Well, I should break it down by my degrees, right? Love lesson 1 is that. Love lesson number 2 is all about yourself and understanding what we're going to be talking about today, yourself and your roots, why you show up the way you do in a relationship. What are your belief systems and your patterns? And then the love lesson number 3 is all about the ABCs of dating, because there are steps to it to make sure that you select a right partner and then learn how to actually be in the relationship. Because, it's one thing to attract the right person, but then we're not taught or educated on how to be in a relationship. So I make sure literally from A to Z that you are going to be successful at getting you the ultimate love connection. And whether that is with a partner or with yourself, it's just, so that's what I do. Thank you for the chance to say that.
I love it. Let's talk about our past and how it really shapes us into choosing the partners that we do choose. And again, it always comes back to your parents. It really does. And how you were raised, what kind of love was shown or not shown or talked about or felt even physically in the home is a huge part to do with what we feel comfortable putting out there as a partner. Maybe a lot of families were, especially different cultures, are not big into like physical touch. And are not big into saying, I love you. And so, if you get into a relationship with someone who is just, that's what they've learned. And you're like, why don't you hug me more? Why don't you say, I love you? You take it so personally, but it has nothing to do with you. So let's talk about how we kind of show up with our past. And I'll let you take the reins.
Awesome. And you're right, that you said something key, that a lot of parents don't say, I love you, or show affection. And when we talk about the roots of understanding where you come from, that's what it is. It's often understanding where your actual parent, how they were also raised, because often how can they give you what you want or think that you should get when they didn't get it themselves? And this is where I wish we were taught this, what we're going to be talking about right now, at a much younger age, because this is the key to success, and it's the key to really breaking and understanding what your needs are, what your triggers are, what your patterns are, how you show up in a relationship as well. So, in my case, I'll give you myself for an example where I lost my father when I was 2 years old. I was consistently attracting non-emotional available men for most of my life, really not understanding why. And I was like, I've never really had the influence of a male dominance in my life. So I didn't really understand why is this happening until I learned this stuff when I was 38 years old, a lot older in life, and understood that the little girl in me, that subconscious mind, registered that the man that I love the most in the world, and the first man that I got to meet and fall in love with, because that's the thing, right? Our parents are our first love, whether they were good, whether they were bad. It's just the first sign of love we get to experience. So in my little brain of a 2-year-old, I literally thought, wow, the man that I love just abandoned me and leaves me. So my brain registered that I needed to control all kinds of relationship that I'd be in to make sure that they wouldn't abandon me. Hence why my pattern became attracting non-emotional available men. I was so good at long distance relationship. I was the best at them because I would love them from afar. I would always keep control on the situation that was happening to me. So really asking yourself and doing the exercise of saying, what was the relationship with my father? How did he show up for me or didn't show up for me? How did he treat me? How did he hold me? How did he talk to me? Doing that same thing with your mother. And then
just thinking that it's not always daddy issues, guys.
Oh no. Both parents come into your life for a reason. And, I could take it even further that we all hold masculine, feminine energy in us. And that represents a male energy and it represents a female energy as well as people. So understanding both parents, how they were with you. And then I always say, also take the time to analyze their dynamic as a relationship. How were they in their relationship? Because this is what you saw. So if they were always screaming after each other and being toxic and jealous behavior, it's probably going to make you develop that yourself. Being consistently insecure, right? Yeah. Or, if you always saw them hugging and loving and telling each other, they couldn't keep their hands off of each other, that will also show up for you in a different way. So starting from there is a really great way for you to understand and what's the word? Dissect. Thank you. Dissect how you show up in a relationship and why you are the way you are.
Right. I think also, depending on what gender you associate with, you're going to naturally subconsciously copy that parent that is that same gender. Especially, and maybe we've talked about this, but I see this a lot in marriages where you're in a long-term relationship, everything is cool, but something about getting married, somehow your brain's like, I need to be just like my mom or just like my dad. And I'm going to expect that my partner is now going to act just like my mom or just like my dad, depending on which gender you identify with. And that is such a horrible thing that most people have no idea is happening. They're just like, why are we not getting along all of a sudden? I don't get what happened. We were so good, but now we're married and things have changed. So it's really important, like you said, to look at the way that your parents, what roles they played. Were they very traditional? Were they not traditional? And then see how you're suddenly acting, whether you're married or not. It's something about signing a contract for some reason really kind of jolts that brain. But, maybe you're not married and you are noticing these roles are happening and you're wondering like, why is it not clicking the way it used to? So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you know what? I'm not married and I've never been married, but all of my friends that have gotten married said that it really does change things. There is definitely like this, this click.
It's a weird button. It just goes off. You're like, what?
I totally agree. And I think that, I was actually thinking last week as I was working on, I'm writing my book, and I was working on the chapter about, the whole thing about being in a relationship. And I love to say that I am a teacher of my own. I am a student of my own teachings, because I was looking and analyzing at my own relationship and how I show up. And when we go for such a long time looking for our special person, and we think once we found them that, we can lay back, relax, and take it easy and enjoy the ride. And I would say that that's where the official work really, really starts. And that's why understanding what those triggers are, or why you expect, because this is the thing, we project and we expect certain behaviors or our partners to act a certain way. And and I'm sure you'll recognize this, as I love to say, we often, if you had a good or bad relationship with your mother, in my case, we're such opposite. And I'm always, I'll never be like my mom. I'm sure I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my mom. Right. And God damn it, we end up being like them. I don't care what you do. It's just because we've been so programmed since we were young. And unless you do this kind of work and ask yourself these questions, these behaviors and patterns stay with you. So it's good to ask yourself those questions. And there's an amazing book that I love, and that opened my eyes to a whole other level, because, when we talk about that, we talk that the conscious mind, the subconscious mind is built between 0 and 6. When you come into this world, you're just this beauty, this, like, you have no judgment, you come in with love, and then everything is decided for you already. Don't do this, don't do that. You have to drink at this time. You can't cry at night. What are you? So when you think about it, you're already being programmed and told what to do. And this book called Attached, did you ever see the attachment style theory, Attached?
Yes. Yeah, of course. It's just called Attached. I will definitely be reading this because I love attachment theory. I think it's fascinating.
It's so good. And it's a very, very easy read. It's not overcomplicated. And you can actually, it really opens your eyes, not only how you show up in a relationship, but how other people show up with you in a relationship, to identify. And in this book, they actually say that attachment style is literally created between the age of 0 and 2. And I was like, wow, I had read about the 0 and 6, that subconscious mind being built, everything, what you decide, how you show up later as an adult, but 0 and 2, that's like very young. And never mind that if I was a parent, I would have loved to read that book before I actually birthed a child.
Yeah.
To understand. So it's literally how your mother or your father, as we were saying earlier, if they were there, if both your parents were always there, you would cry, they would take you in your arms and comfort you. You develop this secure style. There's 3 main attachment styles that they talk about. There's a lot more, but the 3 mains is secure, avoidant, and anxious style. Mm-hmm. Anxious style would be like your parents would, leave you crying in the bed, and you never knew if they were going to come back. And as soon as they would come back, you would freak out and you'd be like, oh my God, finally you're here. Take me in your arms, soothe me. Then you would develop a bit of an anxious style in your relationships where you're more needy, where avoidant is like, you'd probably be, your parents would leave you. You didn't know when they'd come back. And as a baby, just like, oh, I'm over it. I don't need you. I can manage this on my own. I'll just put my pacifier in my mouth kind of thing. And you develop this style. Well, you're just avoidant. And in my case, that was avoidant. I was avoidant all my life, where I wanted to be in control of the situation. Nobody is getting in my heart until I decide that that's going to happen. Right. So it's a great read. I strongly recommend it, and it's especially good if you're on the hunt for your partner to understand why you're attracting that certain attachment style. Because if you're an avoidant, or for an anxious and an avoidant, will never work out together because they don't understand each other's behavior. Avoidant is always trying to avoid, where anxious is needy and just wants you to come in. So, and the avoidant can't give that. You probably need somebody that's secure, that can give you, something to make you feel safe, something to make you fulfill your neediness in a certain way. And also that attachment style can eventually also change I mean, today I'm in a relationship that we're both very secure people. There's no avoidance. There's no anxious
Yeah.
style happening. So just so people know that those styles can change and evolve if you do that work.
That's why we do the work, man. That's why we do this. The self-development, it is important.
Exactly.
Gosh, yeah, I so get it. I so hear you. I think it can also creep up, past parenting styles. The attachment theory is so important. I did do a podcast on this. I'm not sure where we'll be when this airs, but go look for it. It's pretty. The title is like attachment theory. You can find it, but no, I mean it is something that you can grow out of. But I think that with anything that's like so deeply lodged in us, there's always cases of just triggers. Like you do get worried. Like, oh wait, this feels like a trigger. Is that going to happen? And then waiting it out. Let's actually talk about triggers and what to do when they happen, because it is so easy to freak out. And especially if you're avoidant, you're just like, bye, like goodbye. Yeah. And I actually saw this thing on Instagram where I basically live about, it was such a simple quote, but it was basically like, if you're always going to be like, yeah, they're not good enough, blah, 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 blah. I mean, essentially you're operating from an avoidant place, calling it self-worth. You really need to understand if it's self-worth, like this person truly isn't showing up for you, or they aren't, at the level you need them to be, or are you just being really quick to judge and not giving them the opportunity to just show you the rest of it, and you're being avoidant? Because the quote was like, all of you are going to be like single and alone at like whatever age and like wondering, what happened, like, but I'm so strong in my self-worth. And I was like, good point. Really good point. Cause I'm writing a course about self-worth right now. So I'm big, strong on the self-worth, but there is a level to it. So what do you suggest when people start getting triggered by their partner or people they're dating? I feel like especially in dating, this is so crucial because we're just still like tiptoeing, trying to get to know someone, trying to be vulnerable, trying not to get hurt. What do you go for it? What do you suggest?
I love that. I love that you brought that up. And there's a lot of little layers under here where, number one, it's like, know what your triggers are, right? How can you change them and do anything about them if you don't know what they are and why you're being triggered? And this is one of the things that I've done and I do and I practice every day myself. When I am being triggered, I call it the out of body experience, where as soon as that happens, I ask myself, why is this happening? And I step out of my body to get out of the emotional, reactional situation, because we want to react. When you're triggered, you want to react. You want to like explode and whatever, and often blame the other one in front of you. And it often has nothing to do with the person in front of you. When you're being triggered, it's past trauma that hasn't been healed. Mm-hmm. So you take a step back and you're like, okay, why am I being triggered? Take a deep breath. Does this actually deserve the emotional drama that I'm creating right now? And why is this really happening? And I would say, 1 out of the 2 times, which is like, it's not, it's just, that's when you realize. But if you don't have the self-awareness and haven't identified why you're being triggered the way you are, it's really difficult to be able to even do that exercise. It's not going to work. So know why you are triggered the way you are. And then when that happens, I also feel that we're so, you said something, we're very quick to judge and say, self-worth and I am, but I would also ask yourself, and this is just by personal experience as well, because with a lot of my clients, I work and I ask, what do you want? Do you know what you want? Are you clear on your vision? And yeah. And then we start working through it. And oftentimes what the vision that they end up creating, they don't really feel worth of receiving it, because it's one thing feeling self-worth, but it's also another feeling worthy of something that you want. And I'll give you an example. It's, starting your own business or even writing a book or, wanting more money at work or wanting that relationship. Yeah, absolutely. I want it. I'm in a comfortable space. I've done all this work on myself. And I remember before I met my partner, 4 months prior, I attracted another emotional available man. And I was like, why is this still happening? And through our conversations, we had a very intellectual connection. He actually gave me the last piece of the puzzle I needed to hear, which was my worth. And he was like, Chantal, you have no idea what your worth is as a woman to a man. And you need to stop fishing at the bottom of the sea and stop fishing at the top.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that was eye-opening for me, because it was exactly that. Even though I was very comfortable in my skin, I did not feel worthy of receiving what I had in my vision. So there's two layers of worthiness, right? Because and we're talking, it's such a big thing right now, self-love, self-worth, and all of that stuff. But really feeling worthy of what you are looking for, wanting, and desiring is another thing. So
that's so huge. I really hope everybody listening really heard that, because that is the nugget. Like, you can be, talking about how like awesome you are and I've got my shit together and blah, 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 blah. But when it comes down to like the rubber meets the road is when someone is like, you don't even know your power. Like, and it is hard for us, I think, in a very realistic way to see who we are from the outside, because I think that a lot of times people get surprised, like you did. Like, you got surprised, like, wait, what? I thought I did know my power, or what I am, projecting to the world, like how people see me. No, you didn't. You did not see it. And again, like, oh gosh, I've so been there, where you're just like, wait, what? Are you serious? Like, you don't want me? You're rejecting me, unavailable person? Are you serious? Like, why is this happening? And again, yeah, it's like you were so fishing in the lowest pool when you're supposed to be way up here, that then honestly connecting that mind and heart, connection of like, I am actually worth that, but I've never experienced it. And that's the clincher. It's like, if you've never really experienced it, you don't even know what that feels like. You're just like, I hope that happens. And so that is the resistance of actually trying to go for it. So how did that happen for you? How did you finally make that jump into getting what you really deserved in a man?
Well, needless to say, that was a really aha moment. And I remember, taking a step back and then starting to see who, when I was thinking of what I wanted, what kind of relationship I wanted to be in, I was like, I've never allowed myself to think that I actually deserve this kind of man, and that, it's okay for me to want somebody that will be loyal, trustworthy, and friggin' see me as a queen and support me, all my lists that I had cleared. And it's, once I made the space and really sat down, and I did this because this helped, because it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to reprogram and rewire your brain, right? Because that was in my head, not from yesterday. That was probably there from birth.
Right.
At this point, I'm like 44 years old, and I'm like, wow. So how do you rewire that brain in like 2 seconds? It doesn't happen that way. So I want this to make sure people understand that when you're working on rewiring your brain, these patterns will not necessarily, and you touched on this earlier, they will never necessarily leave you. It's just, you will know how to manage them. And when they do happen, you'll be able to catch yourself. That's why I say the awareness of what your problem is makes a big difference. So I went back to the drawing table. I really worked on, okay, what is it that I don't feel deserving of? And I started doing affirmations and saying to myself, I am love, and I am deserving of love, of all the kinds of love that I want. It is safe for me to be loved the way that I want to be loved. And it's okay, because I realized at that point I had never really received ever in my life the kind of love that I had been desiring, because I had been avoiding it all this time. Yeah. And then 4 months later, 4 short months later, I actually met my man today. And that was another thing is it's okay. You can meet him. But actually, this is a funny story because 6 months into our dating, I was at a party and a woman that I had done a lot of work with saw me and she's like, Chantal, I heard that you met your guy and he's great and this and that. I was like, yes, all the hard work has paid off. Thank you. And she looked at me and she's like, girl, this is where the real work starts. And I was actually almost insulted and mad. And I left. I got triggered.
Right.
Because I was like, come on, you got to be kidding me. And she's like, you'll start self-sabotaging because you are not used to receiving what you are receiving. You have never received it. So you are automatically going to try to destroy it subconsciously. Well, let me tell you, a month later, I caught myself doing exactly that. I went back to my old beliefs and patterns and my independent, my avoidance style kind of surfaced. And I was just trying to find all the possible excuses to say he's not right for me. He's too old. He's too this, he's too that. But because I had heard that, she had planted the seeds and I was aware of it, I was actually able to say, okay, Chantal, this is coming up. What can you do now? Sit down, meditate on it. This is he's safe. He's not going to leave you. So I was just, trying to work through the whole thing and talking to myself. Wow. And here we are 3 years later. So, yeah.
It's a lot of talking yourself through it. And that's the self-soothing that, especially going back to attachment styles, when you are that baby in that crib and you're crying and no one comes to get you, what do? Do you become a self-soother, which is what their, parents are trying to make you do? Yes. But how does your brain and how does your heart react to it? So I completely feel you. I'm very avoidant. As secure as I am in a lot of ways, I can definitely been avoidant because it's scary.
It's scary.
It's scary. But no, I love that. Can you break down sort of what you do exactly? You'd mentioned like affirmations, but what do you do exactly to rewire your brain that people can do at home?
So this comes in a bunch of different steps. And depending on where you are in your journey, you might require different things at different times as well. So first of all, identify the problem. You really, really need to identify. And that's where I suggest working with a coach, a therapist, doing some energy healing. I still do the work all the time. I call them my witches, I have different things at different times. And I like to think I'm a very conscious but it never ends. Like there's always something to work on. So just not wanting to do everything on your own is huge. So ask for help. Ask for help sometimes we just need to hear ourselves out loud and have the person in front of us ask us the right questions to talk through stuff and realize things. So identify your problem. Once you identify your problem and you get triggered or you're in any situation, you will get that little bell or that heart that starts racing. And then it's like, step out of your body, take a deep breath and ask yourself the question, why is this happening to me right now? Mm-hmm. And just to be specific on an example, and when I said that I was an avoidant style, and I met this guy that I'm with, and he's a provider. Like when we moved in together, he was like, okay, what are we doing? I'm going to pay this. You're going to do this. How are we doing this? And he was like, Chantal, that's it. You don't have to worry about anything. I want to take care of you. And I was like, no friggin' way. There's no way. So in my head, right away, I'm like, I've been on my own since I was 17 years old. I've always had to work from a young age. I come from a single mother that, under low income. So I've always had to fund for myself and independence and work and make it on my own. So all of a sudden, imagine at 44 years old, somebody says, I'm going to take care of you. I was like, wow. So when I say, the feeling worthy of receiving it, and this is some work I had done, it's like, and thank God I was with a conscious partner, because he said to me right away, and he saw my triggers saying, Chantal, don't take away something from me that is so important for me to do and that I want to do for you. And that's when I say, because I knew that was my problem, ding, 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 this is like, Chantal, this is your trigger that's happening again. It's your old belief system. You've done all this work. You are here. You are safe. You are taken care of. Let him receive it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, as you said earlier, it's literally really doing a lot of self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I add a lot of that to journaling, affirmation, and then my best recommendation is really to work with someone to help you talk through stuff. And then you really are able to have tools that will work for you, because people are so different and need different things. But identify the problem when you're being triggered, do the out of body experience and ask yourself, why am I being triggered? Is this really about what's happening in front of me, or is this about me? And if you already know what it is, then it's like you continue asking yourself these questions. Okay, I'm overreacting like this because I obviously identified I was avoidant, and I'm afraid of letting go of my independence. And what does that mean? Well, what if I do let go of my independence? You kind of like really break it down like that. And at the end of the day, you come to realize, oh, well, at the end of the day, I'm kind of freaking out for nothing.
Yeah, that is so true. I think there are different feelings. I'm just trying to think personally of when I've had a situation where I've been freaking out, where there's a difference between, especially if you've been becoming more self-aware and you recognize bad patterns in partners. If that comes up, like let's say you're really used to dating narcissistic men and suddenly the love bombing has stopped and now you see, oh crap, I'm with a narcissist. I had a feeling. There's that feeling, right? That's not even a trigger. That's just a warning.
Exactly.
No. But I think with a trigger that is a good thing, that's a good trigger, almost like what you just described, is hard to navigate when you haven't been there before. And it's really important to take the time, like you said, to not be reactional and to be like, whoa, okay, this is like new territory. Let me like not break up with my new partner who is awesome, who is like telling me they just want to love me. And like maybe like just take a moment, like you said, to just be like, maybe this is my stuff. And I'm also a firm believer, if you feel something is wrong with that person and your gut is literally like something is off here, pay attention to that too. But either way, I feel like taking some space, even if it's just like, hey, I need a day or two from like, seeing you, like we can sort of text, but I need a little bit like alone time to sort of work out my own stuff. You don't have to like tell them everything like, hey, I think you might be a narcissist. And I just want to make sure you're not. Don't say that, don't say that. But, take care of you. And yeah, I so agree. It is so important to talk to someone because you're in the forest. You can't see the forest for the trees when you're in it. And sometimes you just need that voice of reason and clarity to be like, and by, a voice, maybe if you have a very close friend who's got a good head on their shoulders, but I really recommend seeing, a coach or a therapist and really just being like, hey, this is some personal shit that's coming up for me. And I want to make sure that I can deal with it. And I don't want to lose this partner that might be great for me. They're just so different than what I'm used to. Just good thing usually.
Exactly.
Usually.
Yeah, usually. And I like that because I think that when you're being triggered and you recognize it, as you said, that's for me is a sense of growth. And to be able, there's nothing wrong with saying, and I this is where communication comes in. And these are things, especially if you're starting to date someone, if you're able to have these conversations from the beginning, and I'm going to break it down in 2 seconds, where this will actually not only help you within your relationship, but later in life in all of your relationships, where exactly as you said, you're going to react. You don't need to actually say something right away to the person. You know what it is. You can say, there's nothing wrong with that, saying, you know what, I need to go work through some stuff. Can we reconnect on this in a day or two? Mm-hmm. And having your partner being able to not go in his trigger mode of saying, oh, did I do something wrong? Did I really sharing how you need to process stuff And this is not only in relationship and love, it's relationships with friends. I know that if I get triggered and I'm pissed off for any situation, I'm like, I can't have this conversation right now because I'm going to say shit I shouldn't be saying. So I need some time. And I'd rather do that, go take a few deep breaths and let's reconnect a little bit later. And because I've communicated that that's what I need, and in any given situations, my friends know that, my boyfriend knows that, they don't overreact, they don't take it personally. And then we just reconnect later. So I think it's important as a human being to not be afraid that it's okay to say what you actually need and what you need, you like nobody else. So to really assume and not be afraid to say what you want at that moment is okay. I want people to know that it's like fine to go deal with some stuff on the back end instead of in the heat of the moment, right?
And that's important to remember too, if someone is saying that to you, to be like, oh man, like maybe you are in the heat of the moment and you really just want to, yeah, you just want to fight essentially, right? Because if someone's like, hey, I need a moment, you have got to stop and respect that and be like, oh, I'm so angry, but go on a run, go do something, get that energy out in a productive way. And you've got to respect that because that person has probably done the work and is like, wait, I know me. This is better if I do this and move away for a minute. But also, your reaction for someone maybe saying that to you is also very congruent to your parents' reaction, the way that they behaved. So think about that too, think about like what your natural inclination is. Is it to yell? Is it to keep them from doing something by being controlling? It's all there. I would almost suggest, and this isn't like a possibility for everyone, but like go spend like a weekend with your parents, or if they're divorced, like each parent, and just like watch. It's really fascinating how like I'll catch myself. My mom and I have similar sounding voices, but we speak differently. But when I'm with her, I can hear the phrasing that I've just copied from her. And I'm like, but we're so different.
You're so right. You're so right. And you just took me back to a Christmas when I was with my niece that's 13 years old. And I come from a family that used to scream all the time. And then, something, so the kids always scream. And I'm like, at one point, okay, enough. And trigger. And all of a sudden, and my 13-year-old says, I think this family has anger issues. And I started laughing and she was like, you're so right. And she's picking it up. Yeah. She's picking it up. And to take it further, I would even say, because I love what you say, go spend time and observe and you'll understand even a bigger picture. Yeah. Ask them how they were raised. Ask them, how was your mom with you? How was your dad with you? You weren't really affectionate with me today. Well, my mother would never even touch me. You will really get to understand. And this is when you're doing the work. And sometimes, I know it's hard when we're dealing with deep family roots where it's hard to forgive certain behaviors, or we just have these triggers with our families that it's hard to come together as a family. I'm not saying it's to forgive because there might be bad behavior, but you understand where it comes from. And it was never intentional because they didn't know better. Yeah. They didn't know. So as a person, as a human being yourself, how are you going to show up and if you didn't know better? So it's very humbling experience to do and understand that perspective when you're on that healing journey to understand where you come from.
Absolutely. Well, Chantal, we just knocked it out of the park today. I feel real good about this conversation. It is always such a pleasure having you on. You're going to come back because
absolutely.
But tell people how they can find you.
They can find me on my website, raiseyourlovesignal.com, which is easy. On my Instagram handle, which is my name, Chantal.Landreville, or shoot me an email at yes@raiseyourlovesignal.com. And I'm actually doing this weekend a free January 30th. So you'll probably hear this later, but a free masterclass on communications, because when we have this discussion and we talk about these things, I realized that we've just never been taught anything about communicating. So communicating in all of our relationships is essential. And I think that we can all benefit from learning some tips on how to do that. And I talk a lot about how handling trigger points, and when you are with your partner, with your friends, and things are happening and you're arguing and you're reacting, on how you can manage and flow through that. So yes, this will be recorded and available for a short amount of money that I haven't really decided. It's going to be an angel number, maybe a 222 or 444, but it will be available to purchase the recorded version following the actual masterclass.
Perfect. I love it. Well, you were such a delight, and I love our conversation. So I will be reaching out real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were a delight to stare at today, and your beautiful colored, peachy, bronzy tan, and you're beautiful, like gorgeous. So it was nice to see this in my white, winter white environment here up in Canada, where it's like minus 22 today. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I get like uppity when it's like 42 degrees outside. I'm like, oh, it's so cold. That's not safe. We shouldn't go outside.
No.
Oh my gosh. Well, keep warm, and I will talk to you real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. Make sure to rate the podcast and leave a review. We really rely on this to help get the podcast out there. Also, make sure to watch the video version on YouTube at That Girl the Podcast.